Good evening and welcome to Face to Face. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Niresh Eliyatambi. Well, we have less than 36 hours to go before we each go on down to our voting places and cast our ballots in this all-important presidential election 2024. Now, we are currently within what is known as the silent period, the cooling off period of 48 hours directly before the election, where no one is allowed to carry out any publicity work with regard to any of the political parties or the candidates. So we will certainly respect that, as we have been doing from midnight last night when this period began. Now, what we will be discussing on this edition of Face to Face is all the nitty-gritties of what you should do, what you shouldn't do, and when the results will come in, and all those little questions which many voters would like to know the answers to. And to discuss this, we have with us today, on to my immediate left, we have Mr. Manjula Gajanayake, Executive Director of IRES, and over there is Mr. Rohana Hettiarachchie, Executive Director of PAFREL. These are two of the main election observer organizations in the country, which have basically taken on a key role in ensuring a free and fair election, and their work is in fact vital for democracy, and it greatly assists everybody who is involved in the process, including the Elections Commission and so on. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, so let's get down to what's it like out there for the election monitors. Now, Rohana, let's start with you. PAFREL has literally thousands of volunteers and observers out there throughout the country, don't you?
Yeah, actually, thank you for taking us here. Actually, our observation started even before the elections declared by the Elections Commissions, because you know this election is scheduled elections, it's a constitution's elections. So we were aware that election is going to take place such and such a time period, and also the politicians, also the ruling party, also were aware when they are going to have elections. So therefore they also prepared for these elections. So we had to start our observation even prior to the declarations by the Elections Commissions, but in systematically we start observations when the Elections Commissions announced the elections July 26 in 2024. So initially we deploy our long-term observers from the beginning. You know, in Sri Lanka we do have 160 electorate divisions, so we deploy long-term observers, all these divisions. But I think your questions related to elections day, in the really how many people are in the ground. So tomorrow on the elections day we have already prepared to deploy 3,000 observers as a stationary observers. So they will be stay at the polling stations. I mean, there are 13,400 polling stations, but we can't cover the whole thing. But we will deploy 3,000 stationary observers, but in addition to cover the rest of the polling stations, and also to cover the outside the polling stations. Look at the outside the polling stations. We are planning to deploy around 181 mobile teams across the country, and we are sending some team from Colombo also. And we have already shared the informations with the Elections Commission on counting observers also. There are about 200 counting observers, and we already deployed this dispute resolutions unit, which is established at the election secretariat in Colombo as well as the all the district. So we have deployed our people there also. So altogether, roughly about 4,000 people will be in the ground tomorrow. So not tomorrow, actually, day after tomorrow.
Yes. So these people are volunteers, or how does it work? Some have experience in previous elections.
Of course, because you know now these elections, last couple of elections, we had to use the technology. We are using Kobo Collect. So we have to have people who have some sort of, at least in certain extent, to have some sort of the knowledge, handle the smartphone, because they have to submit their report then and there, and we also getting the report at the same time. Roughly about 50% of our observers are the same people, because you know PAFL have been doing this almost 4 decades now. So we have these groups. I'm not saying those who are beginners are with us, but basically we have at least 50% from the previous elections. But all elections we train the new people also. So there are young people and old people, youth, women's. You know, it's a mixed group, but they need to handle the IT in a little bit. So we call it Kobo Collect. So we are getting all these informations through that system. So they are getting, I mean, they are not getting paid as such, but you know, we will cover their travel cost and food cost on the elections day, and also they have to spend couple of days for this exercise, because they have to come for the training, and they have to visit their polling stations tomorrow, and also again the elections day. Sometime they have to submit their report physically also. So they have to spend couple of days with us to do this task. So we will pay on very minimum amount. Actually, it's 100% volunteer.
So Rohana, some of these polling stations are actually in very remote areas of the country, aren't they? So it's not an easy task.
It's not easy task. Some people maybe it's very close from their residence, but some may have to go a couple of kilometers, and some of them may have to because some polling stations are even in the hill, especially in the hill country. I mean, you can't use your vehicles also. You have to walk a couple of kilometers. So it's not easy task for observers. Of course, elections management body also face the same situations, but our observers also has to. They are very committed people. Actually, they are not working for money. We will cover only for very small amount to cover their food, travel, and you know, other things.
And they are mainly residents of those areas, or within that district?
Well, stationary observers are coming from the same area mostly. Maybe the same polling station, maybe not, because it depends on the areas. But the mobile teams which we are deploying, around 180, mostly they are within the electorate. But we are sending some team from Colombo also, because I mean there is no such a hotspot as like in the past. But we know, I mean, with our experience, you know, some politicians, we know how the bad experience during previous elections. So we are sending a couple of team from Colombo also.
Reinforcements.
Yeah. So they are. I mean, unfortunately, most of them will not get chance to mark their ballot, because when they involve with us, if they wanted to vote, so they can't join with the elections mission, unfortunately. So this is also sad part of our observations missions.
Well, perhaps that's something that can be corrected
next elections, most probably.
Yeah. Right. Now, Manjula, can you walk us through the do's and don'ts of voting, starting with when the voters go down at what is it, 7 a.m. That's when the polling stations open. How should they behave? What should they take with them? What shouldn't they take with them? Could you walk us through this?
Yeah, thanks for that question to start in actually questioning, because you know that we are living in wonderful silent time period. Actually, we have received only very few incidents to our organizations, but maybe that there are some few cases are receiving. However, we have been past almost 54 days during campaign period, pre-campaign period. Now we are heading to the most important election. Comparing with the last election, that the procedures are same, nothing will happen, nothing has changed in this election. Therefore, basically we are using the Second Republican Constitution as well as the number 15 of 1981 Presidential Act, as well as some of guidelines. There are two prominent guidelines issued by Election Commission of Sri Lanka. The first one is the media guideline, and the Code of Ethics issued. The media guideline has been issued on 26th July. Those are the most important documents to follow. However, regarding the do's and don'ts as well as the what should be done on election day, actually well stipulated, well described in the Constitution, 94 provision of the Constitution, as well as the Presidential Act, third list of the number 15 Presidential Act of 1981. First of all, you have to check whether you have get registered and in a registry. It is very easy now, because last time, if it is not, actually you have to walk to the election commission, maybe the district electoral election commission, or to meet the Grama Niladhari relevant area. But in this time, actually you can spend only 30 or 45 seconds. Then you can go visit election commission website. Then you have to include your NIC number. Then you may receive all the relevant details, the number and the name of the polling stations, and your name appeared as on the national identity card. Then the first you have to check whether you have get registered or not. If it is not, I mean, if your name is not on that in that book and annual voter registry, then better you stay at the home, because actually you are not allowed to vote. Then maybe the mistake of them, some of people are thinking that actually their name will automatically update it, but it is not true, because they have to inform to Grama Niladhari or other enumerators, especially in Colombo areas. Then you can check other documents, whether you have proper identification documents. Now maybe everyone are aware what should be what are the identification documents. First of all, actually it is NIC. Other than that, you can use the passport, driving license, as well as the identification document issued by Department of Social Service, as well as that pensioners identity card. Other than that, actually some of religious leaders are receiving their identity cards. If not further, recently actually Election Commission, in partnership with PAFREL and DOJF, two organizations, they have issued nearly 5,000 identification documents a month persons with disabilities. It is a wonderful juncture in Sri Lankan electoral history, because it is the first time that Election Commission involved to issue such kind of identification document in order to secure upgrade and inclusive electoral process in Sri Lanka. If you don't have any such valid identification document, then you better go to meet Grama Niladhari with two colored photographs. Then he certify that photographs after you fill that particular form. That are the thing you need. Other than that, actually polling card, because that you will receive the polling notice that to the home, maybe the 8th or other. The 8th was the date that you should receive those the cards. But you know that if you have not received it, don't worry. Still you can go to the post office. Even sub-post offices, they are open till even on election days. You can obtain those. Then those are the things you have to take to the polling stations, but there are some rumors that not allowed mobile phones and other equipments. However, that the in order to secure free and fair election, it is up to election commission to give a notice whether we can take mobile phones or not. But we know that definitely you can't take photographs, selfie, or any other things. That are the don'ts. Then that are the basically actually you have to take to the polling station.
So that's a warning to our young voters, our first-time voters, of which there are around 800,000. Don't try to take selfies inside the polling booths. It's not allowed. It applies to everyone.
Yeah, even not only taking selfies, actually what they are doing is circulating, no, that they need to take selfie, and what they are doing is circulating on using social media platform. It is totally prohibited, not allowed. If so, actually you are violating election laws, then you can arrest by Sri Lanka police under the instructions can be given by election commission.
So if you are going to take a selfie, take it outside the premises. You can take it on the street outside, and don't try to take photos or selfies inside the polling
again actually that the that on election day that the half kilometers, that 500 meters premise, that vicinity area of election polling day, actually it is belong to the polling stations. Then you can't take any photographs or do any other things that related to, I mean, inside that premise. That means half kilometers, 500 meters, not kilometers, forgive me. Then 500 meters area that belong to the polling station.
Very good, excellent advice indeed. So no pictures, no selfies, and if you haven't got your polling card and it's somehow disappeared, don't worry about it. You can still go with your national ID or your other form of ID, recognized identification, and present it, and your name, as long as your name is on the list, you can vote. Am I correct?
Yeah. Actually, it's like the wedding card. The poll card is like a wedding card, because the wedding card will let us know where is the place, what is the date, what is the room, what is the time frame. So it's the same with the poll card. But if you lost your wedding card, but it's still, if you know the place, if you know the dates, if you know the time, the poll ceremony and other thing, it's the same like the elections. So all these kind of invitations for voters to come and vote. But if you do have a wedding card, it is easy for you to find your place, because in one wedding hall there can be so many weddings at the same day. So if you don't have a poll card, it will be the same situation. It may be little disturbances to find the real numbers and take time, but still you can. But if you have your poll card, and you can reach out to the post office, as Manjula mentioned, until even the elections day, you can collect from there. But if not, go with your identification document. That's very simple.
Then who is the groom? SPO, the chairman of EC?
Let's not hypothesize about the brides and grooms. I'm sure it'll be a very festive atmosphere.
Of course,
generally election days are, and of course then Rohana, will you continue to walk us through exactly what happens when you get to the polling station? Then you have to stand in line, and you wait your turn.
I think people are fully aware on those things, but the elections official will check with your names, with the ID, and also they will look your ID card to identify you as yourself, and then they will mark your fingers also, and they will issue the ballot paper. There are 38 candidates. I think the one person is the person who died during this period, don't vote for him because it will be invalid vote anyway, because Election Commission has already declared that. So you can select all these 37 candidates out of 38.
Candidates, yes.
You can select one of them, and you can mark your ballot in traditional way also. If you want to mark only one person, you can use the cross as you did in the past. It will be valid. But if you wanted to mark more than one person's, your vote plus preferential, you have only one vote, but you can mark the preferential vote also. Then you have only one options. Then you have to mark 1, 2, 3. There is no other way around to mark your ballot papers. If you want to mark one person's, you can use the numbers again. You can just mark one, that also valid. But if you mark with cross and 1, that will be invalid vote. If you cross and mark 2, 3, that also invalid. So very simple. If you wanted to mark one person's, one candidate, one party, very clear, on that line you can cross, so it will be valid. If you go beyond 1, just 1, 2, 3. So mark your ballot, put into the box, then your duty is over. Then don't hang on the place. Please go to your normal day-to-day works, because you know during the elections day there will be a lot of political party people, the other people. I mean, we are really happy that in this election there is no much violence actually, but we need to maintain the same situation on the elections day also. So if there is a lot of people hanging around near the polls, and if there is something, so everybody wanted to get engaged, right? So therefore it's good. The advisable situation is just to mark your ballot and go your normal work. Yeah. And the elections official will safeguard the ballot boxes, and of course there will be political party agents, and of course observers also, the police, and there are a lot of measures to safeguard the polling place. And end of the day, the same day, midnight, you will be able to see whether whether your vote has properly counted and make the result. So the voters, the main thing is, go to your polling station early in the morning, and we appeal to the voters, all the voters. I'm sure that these elections, people are very keen to mark their ballot. And as Manjula, I don't know, Manjula has already said, there are about 1 million new voters also in this election, because we are having these elections after 5 years. So there are a lot of new voters also will mark their ballot. So please go and mark your ballot early in the morning and go to your usual work on elections. The rest of the things will look after by the elections officials and the police and other party people.
Manjula, what is the closing time for voting?
Yeah, it is definitely 4 o'clock, because last time you may be aware that actually they extended the time until 4:30 because of actually that the last time we faced that the COVID-19 situation. It is a national disaster situation. That's why actually they extended that time. Any time Election Commission has powers to extend their time, but they have to inform prior. But in this time, it is definitely it will start 7 o'clock till 4 o'clock. Yeah.
But only difference is maybe we don't have much experience on that. Those who are in line in the premises, even after 4, they will allow those who are in the queue. But otherwise, they will close at sharp 4. I think we don't have such experience in the past. Basically, people go and vote within this time frame, because the maximum will be 1,200. I think one polling stations. Yeah. So easily they can mark their ballot within that time frame.
In Sri Lankan experience is actually that that the evening time that we always, as Ms. Rohana did already actually appealing to go to early morning, but that that our voters are waiting, and in the last 2 or 3 hours are used to go to polling stations. But at least please try to change that pattern in this time, then better go in the morning.
Right. And what kind of voter turnout are we expecting? I think you mentioned to me before the show that the highest voter turnout was 83.7%. Manjula, what are we expecting this time?
Yeah, this time actually that we are expecting that it will go till maybe the 85%. 85% mean that it is the highest voter turnout that we can expect it, because you know, last time also comparing with last presidential election, our report says that the 2019 2.6 million voters were unable to cast their votes. 2.6 million voters, because of most of them are in Middle East countries in Middle East, and other countries like US, Canada, Australia, South Korea, and other countries, as well as Mr. Rohana earlier correctly mentioned, sectors, dozens of sectors. Actually, they also don't have the advanced voting system facilities. Due to that, if they are voting, actually that it will go nearly 98 or 96 or 97% as Mr. Rohana said. But in this time, you know, this is the very first election that we are going to face after Aragalaya, as well as in 4.5 years time, actually we have not faced any election in the country as well. Not only that, in this election everyone knows this is something critical, because this may be impact to conduct more elections, maybe at least nearly 3 elections. Therefore, usually our people, the voter turnout of during national elections like parliamentary and presidential, it is totally high. Even in 1947, when we were having our very first parliamentary election, it is well over 50% voter turnout. It is a remarkable voter turnout and history in Sri Lanka. Therefore, we are expecting nearly 84% voter turnout in this time.
And I wish to add one point, because you both referred me, but we discussed before the show, right? So people may not aware. So the point here is the turnout which Manjula mentioned. Always the Elections Commission they have to calculate based on the voters registry. So the 2 to 3 million are overseas, so they can't vote. Actually, those who are in the country, except around again 1 million, the fisheries people, and you know, remand prisoners, private security, media colleagues, then the observer groups, and the doctors, nurses in various sectors, they can't go physically on the elections day. So there will be around 500,000 to 1 million. So if they are there, if the overseas people also in the country, so everyone will be vote. So, but the Elections Commission has to calculate based on the registry. The registry is highest number, but practically they are not in a position to mark their ballot. And the turnout in Sri Lanka in history, I mean, if you look at the local elections, it's somewhere around 55 to 65. Provincial elections 65 to 75. Parliamentary and the presidential election always above 70%. 70 to 85 something. So that is the range. Basically, the people also value the elections, but it should be the other way around for us, because local election is the more closer to them, but they are very less number. But presidential election, of course, very important for the public people. So in that elections, their turnout is quite high. This time it will be more high.
Mr. Niresh, actually recently PAFRL published a report. Accordingly, you know that we were able to, as PAFRL has been able to take some reports. Due to that, let me to say that nearly 8,500 trawlers were in deep sea on the election day of last parliamentary election. That means nearly 5 or 6 people are working in one trawler. Okay, that means nearly 50,000 will be excluded from voting.
So hold that thought, because I think this is an important area for the future, at least, that we need to discuss. We will cross over to a short commercial break right now. Don't go away, we'll be right back.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
එයා හරිම ස්මාර්ට් කෙනෙක් සර්.
ඒ කියන්නේ නිවුස් සේවලත් පුතේ පින්තූරෙන් හිටවල.
එයාගේ ජීවිතය ගැනත් හිතන්නේ නැතුව පොලිටික්ස් කරනවා.
මචං මුලදී ඔබ ලොකු ගේම් දැම්මට පස්සේ ගෙදර ගිහිල්ලා හිතවලම් ඕවා ගැන. පස්සේ කොත්තේ බදාගෙන ඔටු ගහගෙන අඬන්නේ.
මලක් වගේ හිටිය අපේ දරුවා සර්පෙක් ඇවිල්ලා විනාශ කරා.
ලලිතා දැන් ඒ සිද්ධිය අතීතයට එකතුලා ඉවරයි.
මේ මැස්සා අද රාත්‍රී 9ට සිරස ටීවී තුලින්. මාතලේ සේනාගම කියන්නේ දුෂ්කර කම්මානයක්. ඔවුන්ගේ ජීවනෝපාය කෘෂිකර්මාන්තය සහ කුලී වැඩයි. මේ ගමේ වැසියෝ කන්න තුනම වගා කරලා රටට බත සැපියුවත් ඔවුන්ට බොන්න පිරිසිදු ජලය නැහැ. ගම්මැද්ද ඔවුන් සොයාගියා. ගම්මැද්ද රට නගන ජන පවුර.
TV1 TV for life.
We are 2 more days away from this year's presidential election, and I'm right now at the newsroom of Newsfirst, and today is a very eventful day. Even though we are in a silence period, there were a lot of developments happening in Sri Lanka. So there were a bond development story happening in Sri Lanka. So with me right now is manager of the DES, Zulfiq Farzan. Zul, so what's the major development with the bondholder story?
Well, Woodman, the major development is it was a breakthrough for Sri Lanka in those terms. That is, the ad hoc group of bondholders, the local consortium of Sri Lanka and the Chinese Development Bank reached an agreement. Well, the Sri Lankan government reached an agreement with them on debt restructuring terms. This is an agreement in principle where we will see $12.5 billion from the ISB holders as well as $3.3 billion from the Chinese Development Bank being restructured under these terms. Now, however, this agreement in principle should be first put to the IMF and the official creditor committee to see if it fits their program parameters, and thereafter it will become into an actual agreement once all parties sign it. Now, according to a statement from the London Stock Exchange, these agreements in principle were approved by the cabinet this morning.
Thank you so much, Jul. There will be a lot of developments, a lot of stories in Sri Lanka and also in the world as well. See you soon with our Primetime News Bulletin at 9 p.m.
TV1 TV for life.
Welcome back to Face to Face. I'm in conversation right now with Mr. Manjula Gajanayake and Mr. Rohana Hettiarachchie, well-known personalities when it comes to elections and election monitoring. Rohana, let's look at something that we started speaking about before the break, which is inclusivity. Which means there are a lot of Sri Lankans who, for one reason or another, are not able to cast their ballot on that day, unfortunately. So you spoke, Manjula, about the fisheries community because they do go out for weeks or sometimes months on end. They go very far. Perhaps 1,000 kilometers, 2,000 kilometers, so you know they can't sort of rush back for the election. So that's one community. Then you have more than 2 million people who are overseas. They're working in the Middle East or some other country, or they could be simply traveling for business or something like that. And they can't get out of those engagements, so they can't actually cast their vote. Rohana, what's the solution for this, and could you give us some examples comparing the situation in other countries? Because I see notices in our own newspapers sometimes where embassies of other countries are informing their citizens that there is an election in that country and calling on them to come and vote at the embassy. So we don't have any such opportunities.
Actually, there are two issues. So the one which you referred, overseas voting. But I think before that, of course, we need to address that. There are about 2 to 3 million people, and they are the people who really bring the money here, especially the ladies, those who are working outside the country and very hard also. So we need to respect them. But before that, easily we can arrange the voting facility, those who are unable to go to their polling stations physically on the elections day. There are about nearly 1 million. Because they will be able to mark their ballot prior to the elections. Or maybe they can mark their ballot if they get different places for them to vote, especially for the presidential elections. Because you know, some people, those who are working in different from their original residence, if there is a system to mark their ballot in advance, we call it advance voting, like in postal voting, that's the one option. But on the other hand, if you can arrange a system for them to mark their ballot even in the same polling day in a different place, they are close to their working place, that is the other options. And some people can use that facility also. But some people, if there is no proper advance voting system, they may be not in a position to mark their ballot. Sometimes some countries, I can tell you, I think I have shared this experience, because we have been demanding this over decades now. But I am happy to share again, the Elections Commission was in serious thought on this. Now there is a cabinet paper also. The cabinet has approved this advance voting system only for the in-country vote, right? So some countries, they have arranged some mobile voting system. For example, even in Afghanistan, you know, Afghanistan, I'm talking about 10-15 years back. Now there is a different situations. Now the Taliban is controlling the country. But in the past, even during the war period, they do have a mobile voting system. Even the Taliban prisoners can mark their ballot at the prison. So there is a mobile voting system. I can tell you that Myanmar, they do have again for the elderly people, the elections officials will, and the political party agents, they will visit house to house, because they will identify. There is a system to get registered in advance. Actually, we should not call this advance voting. This is generally we should call alternative voting mechanism. It can be advance or it can be the same day. So there are other countries, maybe the proxy voting and using technology, but there are risk factors also, because end of the day, people need to trust the system. So our argument and our demand, we should start with the country level. At least 1 million people like you, the media people. And if you are not in the same area, because as your duty on the election days, media is very important role, play the important role. Those who are coming from village level, from Anuradhapura, Polonnaruwa and working here, they can't use their vote. I can tell you in Thailand, even if you wedding schedule on elections, because wedding may be scheduled couple of months prior to the elections. So if once they realize that election is going to take in place the same day, so they can call for advance voting, they can may apply for the advance voting. So it's not a big deal actually, you can do it easily. But the voting for outside country is little challenge, because you know, most of the countries, as you said, most of the countries are using this embassy voting mechanism. For example, now the biggest polling place in Sri Lanka for Maldives citizens, 3,000 Maldivians are living here, and they use their ballot in Sri Lankan embassy here. But in our embassy, I'm not saying it's a big difference, but highly politicized. If there is no proper system to monitor, there can be highly influence to the voters, because in our country, we have, as Manjula said, actually Manjula was the one who did research on behalf of us, so he also knows the factors. So the positive factors also in this, when we do this research, we have learned only 6-7 countries which has distributed our voters, not the entire world. But unfortunately, most of these people are unskilled laborers, and they are far away from their embassies also, the Middle East countries. So two issues with us. Even if we have a system through the embassy, whether they are whether they will allow to, or whether they will release by the people to come to the
employers may not be agreeable
to come to the embassies, or even if they release, whether they will be able to come these 1,000 kilometers, 2,000 kilometers by driving or by using public transport, and whether they will value that. So those are some practical issues, but that doesn't mean that we should not start something. So our argument is, they are the people who really bring the money here, the dollar here. So elections management, as well as especially the lawmakers, they need to think about it, because 3 million is quite big. Even 2005 elections, I think Neeraj, you can remember, the gap between the main candidates 128,000 something, very low gap. If the 75,000 vote is difference, then maybe the president was a different man. So 3 million or even 2 million voters
it would make
big,
a massive difference.
Massive differences. So therefore, the lawmakers, I'm sure that next parliament, whoever come to power, next parliament should take seriously this matter. And the bill which has passed by the cabinet for advance voting, those people who are inside the country, that's one element that will pass hopefully immediately the next parliament. But they need to think further to get this to arrange some facility and the legal framework for overseas voting also.
So Manjula, picking up from where Rohana left off, so there a decision which has been made, and the cabinet has approved it, and now it needs to go before parliament, probably the next parliament, but that won't be very long either, maybe 3 months from now. So right now it's in the process.
Yes.
Right. Now let's talk about the importance of this, because Manjula, in Sri Lanka, we are an extraordinarily elderly population, aren't we? When you compare with most other countries, we're 5 or 6 years more on average than the global average. So we're an old population. So we have a lot of people who are in their 70s, 80s, 90s, but just because you're 90 years old just doesn't mean that you lose the ability to vote. It is your right by birth that you should be allowed to vote. So of course it's not easy for elderly people to move around, even if they have some family members or somebody to help them. You know, just the strain, the stress and strain of traveling may be too much for them. And also I'd like you to address the issue of the differently abled. Now we saw this come up, I saw the Elections Commission speaking about this. What's the situation there?
Yeah, you know that this started in 2015. That until that time, you know that the election in terms of providing facilities for persons with disabilities, actually there's only one law they have been passed during last 5 decades. It is the Special Provision Act passed in 2011. Actually it has enabled to vote, cast their votes, who are who can't walk, actually, that some have some physical difficulties, including persons with visually impaired, then that is the only piece of legislation passed by Parliament during last 5 decades related to that specific community. Anyway, that when it comes to 2015, you know that it is the reforms friendly. I mean, at that time, yes, maybe the Election Commission, and there were many commissions set up, including Election Commission. Election Commission has initiated under the supervision of former Chairman of Election Commission, Mr. Mahinda Deshapri. Actually, they initiated that in a wonderful way, and they appointed one of focal point to look after these matters. He is now the Commissioner General of Election, that's Mr. Samantri Ratnayake. With that, they were started to provide some facilities for persons with disabilities. That is the climax now. Actually, now one side they are providing identification documents in partnership with other organization like PAFREL DOJF, and in other side, actually, for the persons with visually impaired, actually they are providing tactile ballot papers. Now it is the testing time. They have created some of ballot papers like that, because they can't, as Election Commission, actually they are not in a position to provide braille ballots, because some of persons with disabilities also are not able to read those braille ballots. Not only that, even other communities are trying to include into this electoral process by Election Commission, but let me to say that we have to go far, because the one thing is the piece of legislation, another thing is that the facilities that they should give. By comparing with other countries like India, we have to go far.
Well, we need to go far, but we need to go fast as well, because we are far behind. And in fact, it is the law that the differently abled people in this country should be afforded exactly the same rights and privileges and opportunities in all walks of life. There have been, I think, at least 2 acts passed by Parliament on this, and at least 2 Supreme Court judgments which have affirmed this. So the fact that our elections are still running without this inclusivity is a very sad situation indeed. But let's work towards getting this sorted out quickly. To conclude, Rohana, could you walk us through the counting process and when we can expect the election results to come out?
Well, actually that's very technical things. The better persons could be the Elections Commission people, but with my little knowledge on counting, the polling will start at 7 and end with 4, and immediately after fall end they will start to, they have to wrap up everything and calculate everything, but start by 4 to sending it to the counting places. There are counting places, counting premises in these elections, 49 counting premises and 1,274 counting centers. In addition, 439 postal counting centers also, but all within these 49 premises. So the postal counting will probably start by 4:35, because the postal voting ballot will come early, so they can start with that. But the rest of the counting, the real counting, the polling stations ballots, most probably they can start around 8-9, because they have to wait until all the boxes are received in the relevant counting places. So therefore the postal voting start by around 5, and the other counting start maybe around 8 to 9. It depends on the the time.
Generally, in the past elections, what time have the postal vote results started coming in? At about 8 p.m. somewhere?
Yeah, 8, 9 in between. I think they will start to
Yes, then the final, the ballot box votes, when would that result start coming?
Well,
maybe around midnight?
Yeah, hopefully yes, because you know the first counting will be with the polling, electoral basis, divisional basis, because we have 160 divisions. So each divisions will declare the result, and then and there, and it will display also in the polling counting places. And then they will calculate all these divisions, then it come to the district level. So all 22 the electoral district, they will announce the result, and then the final result will couple all these 22 districts result. I think we can be hope maybe around 2 in the morning, early morning.
Last time
the first result, first result probably, if there's nothing happen in between.
Some districts are maintaining that record, no? Ratnapura, go like
so
that.
around 2 in the morning.
2 in the morning we will get, because, but the thing is, if there is any district delay, so the Elections Commission can't announce the result. Let's say 20 out of 22, 21 district has completed, but if there is something delay, because there can be some natural disaster or rainy or whatever the reasons, it delay to receive the ballot boxes into the counting places. There can be situations, but we hope that in this environment, I mean, nothing will happen, but we hope so to get the result or hear the result around 2 a.m. And if no one get 50 plus 1, after announcing the first round result, they will start again the same counting in the district or the same counting places.
That's the second round.
Because the counting officers will not leave the place until the final result as announced by the Elections Commissions.
And that's the way it was on Face to Face today. I'm afraid we are out of time, unfortunately. Gentlemen, it's been a very informative discussion. Thank you very much to Rohana Hettiarachchie, Executive Director of PAFREL, and to Manjula Gajanayake, Executive Director of IRES. Thank you, gentlemen, once again. And I hope to see you soon after the election. And I wish you and your teams all the very best on the day of the election, and of course the days following the election as well. And thank you very much to you at home for watching. Don't go away, because the news is coming up right next. So make sure you stay glued to your televisions on the night and the next morning of the poll, because Newsfirst will be bringing you all results as soon as they are announced. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good night.